Good morning. Welcome to the Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church, our in-person and online worship. Whether today is your first time or you've been coming for many years, we're so glad you're with us. My name is Celeste Stickney, and my pronouns are she, her. And I'm a member of the Committee on Ministry, Building and Grounds Committee also. We are a growing community that transforms lives through the power of love. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel on and care for the earth. Welcome also to those at home and who are joining us on Zoom. If you're attending for the first time, please go to our website and fill out the welcome card so that we can get to know you better. I have a few announcements this morning. You have two in your order of service. I'd like you to make sure you read those. There's a little test after. There's next Saturday is Save the Date, is the Song Leading for Justice workshop after the service. And then on February 20th, there's a church cleanup. Sunday. Oh, next Sunday. Sorry, next Sunday. Sunday is the workshop. My other announcements are next Saturday, here's Saturday, is Music and Merriment. That's at 7 o'clock, and it's on Zoom as well as in person. So if you have a musical act or a piece you'd like to present, please join us then. Today, there's a brown bag lunch with the Lunch Bunch. That continues today, and that will be ongoing. And I'd also like my last announcement to be that I'd like you to take note of the art that's on the walls today. Susan Selby has done watercolors all winter and last fall, and they are representing world religions. So take a look at those. Now I invite you all to take this opportunity to silence your cell phone so that we can be fully present to one another. After service, please join us for coffee and conversation in the foyer. We encourage you to find someone you've never met before and introduce yourself. Those on Zoom may stay on and connect with one another. And now, let's center our hearts and minds with the ringing of the chimes.
Good morning. Nice. Even for a long weekend, you're here. What a joy. My name is Reverend Tara, and my pronouns are she, her, and they, them. And I am the transitional minister here at Allen A2U2 Church. And I am so happy to see each and every one of you. It is good to be together. As you know, hopefully, you've looked at your calendars, and you might not know because you're here, but tomorrow is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. In his honor, and to continue his legacy, most Unitarian Universalist congregations spend this Sunday worship service working with a theme related to racial justice. So this morning here, we'll reflect on MLK's vision of the beloved community, and we'll dive into the role that accountability plays, in particular, in this vision and in our work for building a more just and loving world. Our children this morning, at least most of them, are taking the full hour for their program. They are building the beloved community fort. So, God bless our DRE Emily. She is so creative. So feel free to peek your head into classroom 7-9 after the service if you'd like to see what they have created. I asked Emily if she'd like to switch with me this morning so I could play in the fort, and she said no. So here I am, and here we all are. And so I invite you to settle in and take a breath. For we have arrived in this place and this moment made sacred by our gathering. Come, let us worship together. And our chalice lighting words this morning. We are a community of covenant. We recognize that to be human is to be an individual, self-defined and self-determined. We also know that we become more awake, alive, and whole through relationships of trust, compassion, and mutual accountability. In this community, we hold one another to our promises, but we also extend to each other a love that forgives mistakes and failures and invites us to begin again. We are a community of covenant, and we light this chalice this morning for our promises, our compassion, our mutuality, our humility. For it is in these that the human and the holy meet. And I light this second candle this morning, a candle of community, in acknowledgement of the good work behind us, the success and the progress, and to remind us of the work that remains, the work of dismantling racism and oppression in our own hearts and minds, institutions, and communities. May we commit ourselves anew to this holy work. Our opening hymn this morning is Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. Dale will play it through once, and then we'll rise in body or in spirit as we join our voices as one. The words will be on the screen, or you can find them in your gray hymnal, which is out this week, number 34. So because we don't have our young folks, at least most of them, in the sanctuary with us this morning, Emily suggested I call this the time for adult adventure instead of the time for all ages. I don't remember what I ended up calling it, but today, because we're going to talk about accountability, I wanted to begin by having a little conversation, which means y'all need to participate, a little conversation about apologies, about what it means to apologize and how we do so in a way that is actually meaningful. So, how many of you have ever made an apology? I hope you're all going to raise your hands. How about how many of you have ever received an apology? Hopefully a few. How about receiving a bad apology? Yeah, I have. I've also given a bad apology, and you might learn that you have too. Can anyone tell me something you've experienced in a bad apology, something that's made an apology feel like it was kind of fake? Lack of eye contact. Sorry you feel that way. So no ownership over what was done. What else? Too brief. The word but. With one T. Sarcasm. Blame. Nice. Justification. Anything else? If. Ooh. Deep. Sorry, if I. In other words, I'm not actually going to take responsibility. I'm just going to kind of go through the motions. So a couple of more examples. Expecting forgiveness or having forgiveness, having you be the one who is forgiven, be your motivation for apologizing, so making it about you. Assuming that even though you caused harm, because you apologized, the relationship will go right back to where it was before. Not a good look. Apologizing, we did this one already, but apologizing for the harm and then making it about you. So there's a little bit of a theme going on. Or, this one's really bad, apologizing for the harm and then continuing to do the same harm. A classic. So a transformative justice educator and activist that I love, Mia Mingus, she teaches that there are 4 parts to accountability that intersect with making a meaningful apology. The first is self-reflection. The second is the actual apology. The third is repair. And the fourth is changed behavior. That's the hard one. So in October, if you were here, you might remember that we did a service on repair. And we reflected together on how we repair relationships after harm by engaging in the process of shame resilience and courage building. And today we're talking about that 4th part that Mia Mingus named, changed behavior. She explains, and I quote her, that true accountability is not only apologizing, understanding the impacts your actions have caused on yourself and others, and making amends or reparations to the harmed parties, but most importantly, she says, true accountability is changing your behavior so that harm and violence does not happen again. Whew. That's hard. So this requires of us looking really hard at our priorities and our beliefs. Because if you believe that you're right to express yourself however you want and say whatever you want and do whatever actions you want, if you believe that that is more important than the impact that you have on somebody else, you're probably going to have a hard time committing to behavior change and staying the course. And so the key here is a willingness to be changed, is an openness and a willingness to truly be transformed. So I'll leave it here for now. And later on in the service, we'll dive a little deeper into what accountability is and what it has to do with building the beloved community. Thank you for participating. Would you please join me now in a time of silence for reflection, for meditation, and for prayer. In a moment, our time of prayer and reflection will continue through music with the traditional spiritual hush, someone's calling my name. But before we continue, I'd like to invite us into some important framing and context. As we know, spirituals were sung by enslaved peoples as songs of resistance under the oppression of chattel slavery and as guides in their quest for freedom. And the deep call for freedom for enslaved Africans expressed through this music calls all of us who sing it or hear it, regardless of our identity, to hold with care the particularity of this context. Blessed be.
What shall I do? name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do?
Wow. We at Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church are a freely gathered, open, and welcoming faith community, supported by your contributions. Each week, 1/3 of our offering is given away to a nonprofit organization whose mission aligns with our UU principles. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Furniture Friends, whose mission is to create homes and rebuild lives by providing donated furniture to people in need throughout the greater Portland community. Donations can be made now, as the basket is passed, through the donation button on our website at A2U2.org, or if you're a member, on Breeze. If giving through Breeze, please note if your donation is for your pledge or a gift to our Share the Plate. You may also mail a check directly to the church. If you are visiting for the first time this morning, please know that your presence is your gift to us. At this time, the offering will be gratefully collected and received. Our reading this morning comes from Robert A. Holmes' Race and the Cosmos, the second edition from chapter 7, A Community Called Beloved. The community called Beloved is not a static idea. It can be revised. During the 1960s, we imagined such a community through the image of children of different ethnic backgrounds playing together. Perhaps we need a different vision as we enter the year 2020, a vision that includes mutual obligations and belonging. Obligation is the awareness of our intrinsic connectedness to one another. The community called Beloved is personal, theological, and scientific. It is here and not here, for there is no here or there. We breathe and excrete and sing the beloved community. We discuss and imprison it. Sometimes we give it a lethal injection, concocted from the pomposity and determination that we are right about the ways of the world. Even then, it does not die. Thanks be to God.
Thank you, choir. Josiah Royce writes of the beloved community. Every proposed reform, every moral deed is to be tested by whether and to what extent it contributes to the realization of the beloved community. When one cannot find the beloved community, she needs to take steps to create it. And if there is not evidence of the existence of such a community, then the rule to live by is to act so as to hasten its coming. End quote. The beloved community, a term coined by Josiah Royce, white American religious philosopher, in 1913, and then popularized by Reverend Dr. King throughout his lifetime of faith-based justice work. It is a vision of a community, a world of justice, solidarity, and radical love, free from hatred, violence, poverty, and war. And King preached that this vision called not only for the transformation of hearts and minds, but also the transformation and radical restructuring of systems, law, education, infrastructure, healthcare, and beyond. And today, over a century after the term was introduced and decades after Reverend Dr. King's death, we as justice-minded people, as Unitarian Universalists, continue our work in the world with this vision as our guide. And all of us who have engaged in racial justice work and anti-oppression work in a meaningful way know that dismantling systems of oppression and supremacy in our own hearts and minds, lives, communities, and institutions is hard work. Necessary and holy and hard work. And so, I want to reflect together today about what is required of us if we are to be faithful to our call as Unitarian Universalists to building this beloved community. Now, some of you might recall that last spring, our Social Justice Committee led a service introducing the congregation to the 8th principle of Unitarian Universalism. I was probably, obviously, not there, but I'm familiar with the work of the 8th Principle Project. And even though this congregation hasn't yet chosen to adopt the 8th Principle, I believe that it has wisdom within it, that it has a challenge and a call within it that can help to root us and guide us as we continue our work. The 8th principle reads, "We covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions." It's a bit of a mouthful. And I believe that the wisdom here is that it complements and it amplifies the other 7 principles. And it does an additional thing. It calls us to accountability. It calls us to be accountable. The 8th Principle Project reflects that our existing 7 principles imply this 8th principle, but do not explicitly hold us accountable for addressing these oppressions directly, especially at the systemic level. Accountability plays a crucial role in building the beloved community. And accountability is where many of us, especially those of us who are white or hold other kinds of privilege, it's where we tend to get stuck and opinionated and resistant. It's where many of us are tempted to stop listening. But, in the words of Mia Mingus, whose work I drew from in our conversation about apologies, what if accountability doesn't have to be scary? For most of us, she writes, we have been taught to fear accountability, and we struggle to know how to conceive of it outside of punishment or revenge. But in truth, taking accountability, being accountable to others, is the natural outcome of truly living into our interdependence, the root of which is belonging and mutual obligation. We're accountable to one another, not because we have to be or because anybody is making us, but because it's the natural outcome of our humble acknowledgement that we are connected, that some of us have lived at the margins and others of us have lived in the center, and that letting go of what we perceive to be a right to do and say and live however we like is the only way to move in the direction of beloved community. It's not about having freedom taken away, but about challenging ourselves to de-center our individualness, our individuality, our individual selves on behalf of the larger whole. In the name of relationship, in the name of justice, and in the name of love. And it's not the job of those with less privilege to hold accountable those with more privilege. We are all responsible for holding ourselves accountable, with support and relationship, of course, but it has to come from right here. It has to come from our own hearts. So what does that look like? What does this actually look like? What might it look like in our work as a church, in our work to dismantle racism and systems of oppression? How might we build a culture of accountability? Well, for people of color, accountability can look like helping one another identify and dismantle internalized racism. For those of us who are white, we are accountable to be in relationship with Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and to center their expressed needs, not our assumptions of what their needs are. To follow through with the commitments and the promises we make, to gather in white caucus spaces and do our own internal anti-racism work without expecting people of color to teach us or to hold space for us, and to continue the ongoing work of personal reflection and self-examination required of beloved community builders, even if we spend most or even all of our time in all white spaces. One of the ways that your worship team, today Dale and me, practices accountability is in the care we take in choosing and contextualizing music. White music directors and ministers serving in predominantly white congregations have been asked by Black musicians to take great care when using Negro spirituals, if we use them at all. Spirituals embody a particular experience of suffering and a particular cry for freedom. As a white minister, I am accountable to my Black music colleagues, so choose to provide this context so as not to strip these songs and pieces of their historical intention and power. There's no one policing our choice of music or readings or the way that we do worship. There's no one holding us accountable, but we choose to be accountable because the well-being of and respect of our colleagues of color and the integrity of our relationships with them are more important to us than our personal desire to use resources for our own enrichment. Harming some of us ultimately harms all of us. Choosing to be accountable in our world building is freeing and liberating, and it actually feels good because it's a practice. And leaning into the practice means that we'll mess up, which is in some ways its own kind of freedom. We might have the opportunity to make a meaningful apology, or many, and we know what comes next because we've already made a commitment to the ongoing work. Being accountable is part and parcel with being a student of life, with being a Unitarian Universalist. Now, Mia Mingus, awesome person, transformative justice educator. She offers us a challenge. She asks us, what if we rushed toward our own accountability and understood it as a gift we can give to ourselves and those hurting from our harm? What if we understood our accountability not as some small, insignificant act, but as an intentional drop in an ever-growing river of healing, care, and repair that had the potential to nourish, comfort, and build back trust on a large scale, carving new paths of hope and faith through mountains of fear and unacknowledged pain for generations. We have a vision, coined by Josiah Royce, amplified by Dr. King, nuanced by Mia Mingus and Barbara Holmes, and activists and organizers and people of faith, us included, across the generations. We have a vision that calls us in. And so, guided by that vision, let's amplify it. Let's make an intentional, accountable drop in an ever-growing river and see where it takes us. For we have everything to gain. May we make it so. Amen. Our closing hymn this morning is The Fire of Commitment, number 1028, in your teal hymnal and on the screen. You may rise in body or in spirit as Dale plays it through once, and then we will join in singing together. Keep your eyes wide open, your hands willing, your hearts generous, your ears attentive, your senses awake, your feet light, your hope alive, and your faith on fire. Go and shine wherever you may be. Go and embrace with tenderness all of life, with its sorrows and its joys. Go and embrace what divinity expects and what your siblings seek. May the creative force bless you. May the divine solidarity sustain you. And may you be encouraged and enveloped by the tender breath that brings freedom. Go in peace.